out, okay? All right, let's talk this out. You've been trading for more than 4 years now, actively, and now you've been trading platform challenges for the past 2 years, and now for the past 2 weeks, you've essentially blown away approximately about $1,200 with essentially about 20 platform challenges, one by one by sometimes like three of them at the same within like an hour. Okay, so that obviously says something about you. Okay, so that means that I'm not doing something right. Okay, so there's something wrong that I'm doing. So in order for me to fix it, I need to become a software, void of any emotion when I make the trade, so that my view of the market is totally objective. So when I make a trade, there has to be there has to be there has to be elements of these things in order for me to make the right trade. Okay, the first thing I need to do is, what happens when I look at the, okay, so what am I looking for? When I look at it, I'm looking to identify the setup. It has to be the setup. Setup has to be identified. Okay, it has to have a setup. Then within the setup, I have to identify that there are confluences that tells me it is a setup. Okay. All right. So okay? So that's how it works. Okay. So let's say, okay. So let's figure this out. Okay. And I have to follow this every time. So it goes along like that. Oh, so it goes along like this. Okay. So price moves like this, like that, like that, like that, and then like this, and like that, right there. Okay, so I have this setup right here. So when I have this setup, I'm looking to enter here. Okay, so I have to be identifying a specific feature of that setup. So, uh, so now, okay, setup has to be identified. In order to identify something, I have to characterize them. Okay, I have to characterize the setup. So then what are the elements of a setup? Okay, so what are the elements of a setup? What are the elements? Okay, so the first one would be, um, so for a particular one, let's talk about the breakout. Okay, so the breakout is initiated with a large green candle. Okay, large green candle. That's the first hint. Then I have to see on the left side is exhibiting a, left side is exhibiting a higher high and higher low, which is coinciding with the identification of a breakout. It is breaking out into the direction in which the left side is depicting. Okay, that's what it's saying. Okay, so what else? What other things are constitute that? Okay, now there is an area of support. Okay, so there's an area of support where it has been trending for a while in order to break out. Okay, so that's another clue that I can use as a setup. All right. What else? What else is there that I can look at? Okay. What else? What else is there? What else is there that I'm looking at to identify that the setup is good? When I look at it and I'm about to make the trade and I'm about to assign a specific risk, okay, then what else do I need to identify, right? Okay, so let's say that I've completed identification of identified. The setup has been identified. All right, so now what I need to do is determine the profit target. Okay. Thirdly, determine the stop loss. Fourthly, is there a possibility to add? 5, in what instance will I exit the trade manually instead of profit target and stop loss? Okay, these are the things that I need to ask myself before I enter into trade. When I have these things identified, then I can properly make the trade. Okay, that's the only way to make the trade. If I don't identify these things, then each of the trade is just guesswork. These elements must exist in a trade. If they don't exist, then it's gambling. They have to be identified in order to fit into the criteria and in order to maintain the integrity of the trade. If I do not identify these things, then there's a hole in the trade, and most likely there will be a huge problem. Because if the trend goes in your direction and you become laxed in your trading, your identification could be incorrect and you may not know it, and you'll get habituated into making the wrong trades. All right? So determining a profit target means there is a resistance area. Okay? That's what it means. So I'm attempting to set the profit target at a point where there is a resistance area. That's it. That's it. Okay, that's where I want it to go. That's ideally speaking, that's it for the profit target. That's the goal. Okay. And if I have to prematurely exit the trade, then I can manually exit the trade, which is discussed in 5. So determining the stop loss. Now that's the difficult part. That's a very interesting part because I have to determine the consistency rule to adjust my stop loss, because I could have a huge stop loss. Okay, so that's the stop loss. Now, I need to set the stop loss at an area where there is support. either by a previous candle or an area of groups of candle showing this support. That's it. Otherwise, it could just bounce and just take out the trade at any point in the trade. Okay? Or I may want to just set a very tight stop loss to not allow trade to deteriorate. Okay? And there's the other part is, now in what situation would I add? Obviously, if the trend is, okay, trend is still strong and showing a continued progression of the setup, or a new setup is visible. Okay? All right. So those are the things that I can make that into a mechanical set of things that I need to do when I'm making a trade. Now here's another part. This is another very, very interesting part. In what instance would I prematurely or manually, instead of profit target or the stop loss, exit the trade? This is very, very important. This is very important. As I make this trade portion most of the time before profit target. Okay. So what instance stalls for a while? Is that right? Do I want it that way? The price stalls. Okay. Then there is like crowning effect. Okay. Something that's the crowning. There's a little crowning thing that occurs, and also a pullback. Okay. So those are things that I would, now this can be added. I'm gonna edit this and I'm gonna fine tune it and I'm gonna make this work, because what I've seen after trading thousands of times, these are the things that I need to consider. And if I need to add more, if any one of these are missing in my trading, then the trade is essentially gambling.